You have a D&D campaign you could be prepping.
Shut the fuck up.
You have a million other things you could be doing.
Shut the fuck up.
But let's waste our time with fucking Smite Mobile.
It's not Smite Mobile. It's a different thing. It's different.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, starting with a Game of Thrones. As always, I am one of your hosts, Zach. Sitting next to me here is my brother, Nate.
That was wonderful. I was really hoping you were gonna fuck something up.
I thought I was. It was slipping. I was losing it. I was white knuckling that intro the whole time. Anyway, if you're brand new joining us, thank you. Welcome. We think you'll like it. We are full spoiler reread, so hopefully you've read the series before. If not, that's okay. But if you listened before, welcome back.
Vader is Luke's dad. That's a new spoiler we haven't said on the episode.
Have we not done that one yet?
I don't know. Probably not. I usually stick to Snape killed Dumbledore, but that one got overplayed. So
a little bit.
I tried to think of one right now, and I was like, Darth Vader is Luke's dad. Fucking cool. I got him.
It works. Yeah. We do stuff like that because we're intelligent humans.
So last episode we read Sansa 6.
Yeah, it was a downer episode.
It was a rough one to get
like mother,
through.
like daughter. Sansa was a little suicidal.
We got to see some of her strength of character, though.
Yeah,
we really got to see a lot of that.
That's it. Yeah, I led it with that because she's suicidal and she has every right to be. Like, her life has literally crumbled around her. Yet she finds the strength of will to not only resist taking her own life, but to fight back in her own very small way. Mm-hmm. But she gives it right back to him and is currently still a prisoner.
You go, girl.
She's got the Hound who's warming up to her. She was considering shoving Joffrey over a turret. It was cool shit, man.
Man, if only. Like, shit.
If only.
If only.
And so now we are going to jump across the narrow sea.
To Dany 9.
To Dany 9.
This is not the final chapter for Daenerys.
As we last left Dany.
Yeah.
She had agreed to let Mirri Maz Duur perform some blood magic on Drogo to restore him to life, make him a Khal who could ride again. And while Nate and I were skeptical on whether or not any magic was actually performed, Dany's water happened to break in the chaos that was ensuing outside the tent as the Dothraki were divided about the decision.
Jorah carried her into the tent where the blood magic was occurring, and we closed that chapter. We open basically immediately during that, or like within 10 hours after, because we don't know when her fever dreams technically start, but
we in some trippy shit.
Yeah, so it's just a dream sequence here where
Wings shadowed her fever dreams.
Yeah.
You don't want to wake the dragon, do you? She hears.
Yeah, and that's kind of just echoing, I think. Like, I feel like it's just echoing throughout her head, and the ringing is always there. I feel like it starts out like you just. It also
it's sort of it marks the change in the scene that she's in currently, because she goes through quite a few different areas. So at first she's walking down a long hall with high arches. She could not look behind her, must not look behind her. Ahead of her was a door, tiny with distance, but even this far away she could see it was painted red. She walked faster, her bare feet leaving bloody footprints on the stone.
Yeah, you don't want to wake the dragon, do you? So that's the first cut.
The first one. Pretty straightforward, I think. She sees the red door, which, as we know by this point, Dany has come to symbolize the red door as home.
Yes.
The bloody footprints, I think, are her journey that she's made so far. I started to pay attention here because we get this litany, the you don't want to wake the dragon, do you? And slowly it starts to change. We start to lose bits of it. Yeah. So, yeah, this one I think is pretty straightforward. Her journey home, essentially, is what this one embodies. So
yeah, and how hard it's going to be in the trials ahead. And
you don't want to wake the dragon, do you? It changes.
Yes, and next she's in the Dothraki Sea with the sunlight pouring down on her. She's being held in the arms of Drogo, and she thinks as he... they start having sexual relations. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Drogo did.
And when she's filled with him, she thinks home.
Monica Lewinsky.
Monica Lewinsky. You're fucking wild.
Anyway.
So, yeah, she she's now contributing this to home and how she felt home.
Yeah, she whispered home as he entered her, which is the only part of the sexual act that I noted. But, I mean, that's pretty significant. Like, when she's with him, when they're...
We avoid sex.
when she's with him, when they're having sex, she feels home. She feels comfortable.
Yeah, and so I think it's really representing the Dothraki and them as a people, their
the stars
culture.
Smiling down on them.
Yeah, and
stars in a daylight sky, she knows.
I think it's true that she never has felt more at home than when she's been with Drogo, riding through with the Khalasar. Like, she's got her people, she's comfortable,
she's treated
safe.
as a queen.
Right, she's not cast down, at least since her brother's been crowned.
Yeah.
You know.
But suddenly, the stars in the daylight sky were gone, and across the blue sky swept the great wings, and the world took flame.
Yeah, and so then we hear the call again.
We get the first, and so at this point, I started thinking, what are we losing? We lost the you. So the first ones were about Dany and Dany's journey. So we get, don't want to wake the dragon, do you? Jorah's face was sorrowful. Rhaegar was the last dragon, he told her.
So with that flame sweeping across,
the flames taking the world.
I think that's more representative of her actual world, like the everything about the Dothraki that she's grown to enjoy, the size, the power of it, that's gone.
Yeah.
The dragon itself, has come to clear it out, because she needs to be reminded that you're still fucking capable of doing this shit.
I took this a little differently, because I took it as the world taking flame was her getting pregnant. This is, I took this whole thing as her journey through this.
Oh, yeah.
The world taking flame was the dragons essentially given the catalyst that they needed to be born.
Yeah.
When she got pregnant, after Drogo held her, the Dothraki, she smiled down on their union.
And so that was like the birth of the dragons.
That was the birth of her son and the dragons. Yeah. Dragons. And so we get, don't want to wake the dragon. And Rhaegar was the last dragon, Jorah said, his face sorrowful, warming translucent hands over a brazier where stone eggs smoldered red as cold.
So note the translucent hands there, because later on in the chapter, the eggs are going to be compared to having that almost translucent.
He begins fading, less substantial than the wind. The last dragon, he whispered, and was gone. That to me immediately jumped out as his flakiness, his sketchiness, how
he vanishes.
Translucent and sort of like ghostly.
So that's where I was gonna go with it here, like for the meaning, because
of course, the last dragon. Yeah. There are no more dragons. Right. She's been told. This is important. Rhaegar was the last.
But that's
dragon.
what's important, is that he's saying that. But then he's the one that's not.
He's the one who
not
can't
reliable.
be. Yeah,
he can't be.
He's as insubstantial as the wind. Like his
words are nothing.
Your words are wind. Yeah, and so she still felt the dark behind her, and the red door seemed farther away than ever. Don't want to wake the dragon, do you?
So now I feel like throughout this, we're also, even in the Dothraki Sea, that like if we were to look at the right location, out in the middle of the desert, there'd be the red door, and like kind of down a hallway. Like throughout this, that hallway's been.
Yeah, sort of at the end of this
somewhere in each part of the vision, just kind of giving it this power that it's not, that it is a dream still.
Yeah. So again, losing the you off of the whole you don't want to wake the dragon. This is about someone else in her life. Jorah first, and now we get Viserys stood before her screaming, "I am the dragon, and I will be crowned." As molten gold ran down his face, burning deep channels in the flesh. His fingers snapped like snakes, biting at her nipples, even as his eyes burst and ran like jelly.
Yeah.
So again, we get, and you mentioned it last in Sansa's chapter, the Joffrey-Viserys comparison. At the very beginning of the book, we had Viserys pinching her nipple, being very gross, and now it's snakes. He's this snake in the grass, this gross, disgusting being. Again, someone from her past that helped motivated, and we get don't want to wake the dragon. So now we've lost the you and the question of it.
So yeah, and now it's almost become more of a request from her. Like, do we don't want to wake the dragon?
Don't want to wake the dragon? And, yeah, we get now that the red door is so far ahead, and she can feel the icy breath behind her. If caught, she would die a death that was more than death, howling forever alone in the darkness. And she begins to run.
Yeah. Now, we get what she thinks the cold is coming up behind her, but do you agree?
I don't know. This is the cold is the toughest thing to point out for me.
Because is that her past?
Is it the past? Is it the White Walkers? Is it the mistakes the Targaryens made? Is it the
lust for power?
True cold hatred of the Westerosi lords that she's going into? There's so many things it could be. I mean, it could just, the White Walkers and that coming storm as well. So it's really hard to know. She begins to run, and she feels heat inside her, a terrible burning in her womb. I believe at this point, he's being pulled out of her.
Yeah, I agree.
And her son stood before her, tall and proud, with Drogo's copper skin, Dany's silver gold hair and violet eyes. And he lifts his hand towards her, but when his mouth opened, fire poured out. And in an instant he was gone, turned to ash. She wept for her child, but her tears turned to steam.
Yeah, so I think part of this is the fever dream things.
Yep.
She's burning up. She's actually running fevers. Her baby creature, which I think is just, a malformed baby that was fucked because of Mirri Maz Duur, but that's beside the point right now. And so the steam part, I think, is the dream accentuation, where it's, in her dream, she cries and it just steams away because of it. But in real life, she's sweating so bad.
Yeah.
And she's so
I
hot.
also think, as we learn later, she believes that she knew it. I think that this is her acceptance of it.
Well, this is the grief.
Realizing that her son is dead.
The tears don't need to come.
Yeah. And that's what Rhaegar manifesting as an adult, it would seem, because he's grown. He's not a baby when she sees him. He's a man.
Well, right here, when it does the Wake the Dragon thing, it says just want to wake the dragon.
Want to wake the dragon.
And
so
now it's almost a desire for her. I do.
Her son is now dead, and so she's lost any...
Yeah, my husband's gone.
I do want to wake the dragon.
I do want to.
And so ghosts line the hallway, dressed as kings, with swords of pale fire in their hands. Faster, they cried. Faster, faster. And she raced forward, feet melting stone where they touched. A knife of pain ripped down her back as she leapt forward, and she smelled burning blood. She saw the shadow of wings, and Daenerys Targaryen flew.
Now, I also think this is the moment where the baby's really being revealed and
pulled out
and seeing what it is and what's happened to it. Now, I don't necessarily think that it... I don't know, because I feel like there's potential that maybe Mirri Maz Duur was exaggerating a bit about it, but the Targaryens do have a history of some deformities being born. Not as many as a lot of people do contribute to the Targaryens, but enough to where it's not outlandish, especially considering what she's been going through, the number of times she's fallen, so who knows what could have happened, and all the movement that she's been feeling, could have been the dragons almost every time in the shells, or just her own body reacting to this thing in her, that's growing, unfortunately.
Yeah. The kings with the swords, you think those are Targaryen kings?
I think that it's just supposed to represent the dragon. As she's running and she's getting hotter and it's kind of
she's turning into a dragon.
Right.
Is the imagery that we're supposed to be. Her feet are melting the stone.
I think it's supposed to represent the lost kings of Targaryen history, not
awakening
lost,
in her blood.
Yeah, kind of encouraging her forward.
So we get Daenerys Targaryen flew
healing her, honestly. Yeah. Not to interrupt you, I do think that she and Jon Snow eventually, I think, has something similar where they heal faster than most people.
Yeah.
They and we definitely, and I'll point it out when it comes up in the chapter here, but I think that it might be partially that as well. The whatever's in her.
That's what I would question is how the fuck do you survive this? If it is true what they pulled out of her, how?
And that's what I think is important. Yeah, it's very easy to breeze over.
Like we've learned that fire cleanses. She's feeling a fire in her womb, like maybe.
And they're holding these pale fire swords.
They're burning it to save her and burning almost the corruption out of her.
Exactly.
And so it changes to just wake the dragon. No more want.
And she's flying over the Dothraki Sea this time. And every living thing flees below her. She's
in terror of the shadow of her wings.
And I think we're going to get this exact image when she's flying back to Meereen.
With the
Dothraki, whenever, that she's going, everything is fleeing. And there's also an army of 100,000 Dothraki behind her. But she's flying, her black giant dragon across these fields. Everything is running.
I mean, it could also be the image of Westeros.
It could be that
Everybody
as well.
fleeing in terror of this dragon over these dragon wings over the city. And so... Yeah,
she could
the red door.
Home, it says.
The red door loomed before her. And she throws open the door, and we get the dragon.
Just the dragon.
And she saw Rhaegar on a black stallion, fire glimmering through the eye slit of his helm. The last dragon, Jorah whispered, and Dany walked up and lifted the visor. The face within was her own.
Yeah. And so it's, like you had mentioned, her personal journey and realizing that throughout it all, she is the last dragon.
Is she?
She's thinking.
Because the imagery of Rhaegar is making me think of Rhaegar's son.
Well, yeah, and he's coming up.
And so maybe this isn't... It is about Dany awakening herself, but it's also...
she's projecting herself onto it.
But I think it's also, like... find Rhaegar's son. You and him together are the last dragon. Like that, you need to
make the last dragon.
Targaryens aren't a Targaryen alone in the world is a terrible thing. Like that type of thing. I don't know. I'm just obviously grasping for whatever meaning could be, but I think it's odd that it's the dragon, and then there's Rhaegar. I know that he's described as the last dragon a lot.
Well, see, and that's where I was coming with. Is I think what George is doing is the literal intention. He's saying the last dragon from Jorah, who has always referred to that as Rhaegar.
Well, that's the interesting part, though, is that this isn't Jorah's litany. This is you don't want to wake the dragon, do you? And then it just goes the dragon. This isn't Jorah saying
right,
it.
And she saw her brother.
So I think she a little bit of her is putting Jorah's words to it.
Because that's who she's heard as the last dragon has been her brother. And then when she goes up, she realizes, oh, right, I'm the last dragon.
But there is one more, with Fagon, potentially
and so,
two more.
With George's actual thing, it's that surface meaning. But what do we take from it, knowing that there's other fuckers out there that claim that same
For a long time, after she saw her face within Rhaegar's helm, there was only the pain and the fire within her and the whispering of stars.
The whispering of stars.
Fucking Quaithe. With her lacquer-colored starlight mask.
Now, I think that fire within, it goes directly to...
burning out the corruption.
Assist with our
keeping her alive.
That's what's burning her. And the whispering of stars.
I have to believe that's Quaithe.
That's the only thing I can think. And maybe, do you think there's some kind of real magic going there, awakening things? Or do you think it's just her? It makes me think
that this litany we've been getting has been Quaithe.
So that's what I was
Don't want to wake the dragon,
I was going to say...
You don't want to wake the dragon,
do you think she's kind of been the narrator of this dream sequence?
And that's where Quaithe has been leading Dany through.
For her to discover. That's why I feel like what I said with her seeing herself as the last dragon is the surface meaning. Because if Quaithe was behind this...
is guiding the dream.
Then it's very much, like you said, you think you're the last dragon, but it's the group, Rhaegar, yes. And you...
It's the connection.
It's
the Targaryen-ness,
Right, find the last dragon.
Mm-hmm. And together, that could be Dany and Jon. Collectively, they are the last dragon. That's what it could be. There are no more Targaryens. You are the end of the line, you two.
Because wouldn't you think that Fagon would be the last dragon, though? Because she's just Rhaegar's sister. So
well, it depends on what Quaithe knows.
Right,
true. In
exactly.
fact, in
who
actuality,
who
yeah.
really is.
But, with this ending here, I believe that the Whispering of Stars has been Quaithe saying, you don't want to wake the dragon, do you? Because she knows what's happening here with Dany. It's awakening. Magic is awakening in the world, finally.
Definitely. Dany wakes to the taste of ashes. I
mean, there's a lot of shit burning in the brazier that could... Brazier. That could, get up and get in her mouth, but after the dreams, it's...
that's all it was.
Jiqui hovered over her, a frightened doe, which made me think of the different animal comparisons we've done with the Ozymandias episode and such of their, the animals that Dany has been compared to are meant to protect all these frightened... This frightened doe, and the tent was drenched in shadow.
Yeah, what a fucking way to describe that, because it just makes it feel that much heavier.
Especially with the description of the shadows we get later from Jorah.
Yeah, and so when I picture that, it just makes it feel like a real heavy, shadowy, dark, and it was weird.
Yeah, this whole chapter feels heavy, like a fever dream. If you've ever been this delirious yourself, where you've been sick enough to just do that wake, sleep, crazy dreams, I don't know what's real. So Dany begins thinking of her dream and struggles to rise, wondering why it was she hurt so much. And Jiqui bolts from the tent, shouting. And they found her on the carpet, crawling toward her dragon eggs. And Ser Jorah lifts her and puts her back.
Before she ran out, Dany was trying to ask for help with something from Jiqui. But she didn't know what it was. She didn't know how to word what she wanted. It was her dragons is what she's really trying to, but she didn't, for whatever reason, couldn't.
Yeah, so Jorah lifted her, brought her back to her sleeping silks, and Dany sees her handmaids and Joko and Mirri Maz Duur enter. And Jorah tells her, "Sleep, princess," and Dany tries to fight it, but he covers her with the silk, even though she was burning. And then Mirri was there, and the Magi, tipping a cup to her lips, and the tent grew dim, and she slept and did not dream. And she floated there for a while, at peace.
Yeah. And after a while, she wakes and calls for her handmaidens again.
Yeah.
And they come immediately and bring her some water, and she just drinks the fuck out of it, because who wouldn't be thirsty as hell? Asks for more, and finds out that she's been asleep for a while.
Yeah, she says, "I've been sick," and the Dothraki girl nods, and she asks how long. And Irri says, "Long," and it seems to Dany, that she seems frightened. And so Mirri came with Jiqui when she returned, and it was wine that she had Dany drink this time. And as her head starts to swim and sleep starts to find her again, she starts muttering, "Bring me, I want to hold." And Mirri asks her, "Yes, what is it you wish, Khaleesi?" And she says her egg, "Bring me my dragon egg," and she fell asleep. And this time when she woke, the third time, sunlight poured into the tent, and her arms were wrapped around the pale dragon egg. Dany could feel the heat of it, and she traces her finger along the egg and feels it twist and stretch in response. It did not frighten her. All her fear was burned away.
Yeah. So that just shows that from her fever dreams, there was the whole grieving process happened there, where she just woke up ready to accept and move on.
Yeah, she touches her forehead and realizes her fever is gone, and she sits up. And she feels strong, and her handmaidens come, and Dany asks for some water and fruit, and Ser Jorah, and a bath, and Mirri Maz Duur, and then the memory hits her all at once, and she's like, "And Drogo?" And she watches their faces with dread as Irri answers, "The call lives," but so quietly, and Dany sees a darkness in her eyes.
But they won't say anything else.
Irri runs out to fetch the water, and Dany turns to Doria. "Tell me." And Doria says, I'll go get Ser Jorah. And she runs out too.
Deuce out.
Dany caught Jiqui by the wrist and held her captive. "What is it? I must know. Drogo and my child. My son, where is he? I want him." And we get the whompaba, the punch. "The boy did not live, Khaleesi." Her voice was a frightened whisper.
But Dany knew this already.
Yep.
From the moment she grieved over it in her dream when she saw her grown man child.
And Jiqui crying over her. And she thinks, she
knows she should weep, but she wept in her dreams, and all the grief has been burned out of me. Once again, she says, that these things have been cleansed by fire, so...
She felt sad, and yet she could feel Rhaego receding from her, as if he had never been.
Now, this here, I really kind of zoomed in on this. A lot of people give your man Rhaegar a bunch of shit for dipping on Elia and the kids there.
Over the prophecy.
Right. What if he had this moment where he had some kind of fever dream prophecy that he realized, though, I mean, granted, we blame Rhaegar for this shit, but not Dany, because she lost her child, her husband and stuff, but they were never meant to be. That's not, and she loses all semblance of Rhaego. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Do you think Rhaegar had something similar where they're not important to what needs to happen, and it's not a good thing. Like, I mean,
it's that Targaryen drive,
turn, all of a sudden, where they receded from his life, his mind, they're no longer anything.
Well, that seems to be what it is because all of a sudden he became so obsessed with the prophecy of the dragon must have 3 heads, and then, hey, Lyanna, what up? So I would believe he was led to that conclusion. I think it was he was awestruck by her beauty, but I think there was a little bit more to it than just follow your heart of the Starks and the Targaryens need to.
I just kind of pictured it this specific moment where it said that she felt Rhaego receding from her as if he had never been.
I mean, because it's entirely possible that if Fagon is Fagon, Rhaegar starts something with that where, they're going to end up killing it. Oh, shit, my sister, Daenerys, is going to end up killing my son. I need to have another son ready. So, Lyanna Stark can give me that son. Yeah. And then the dragon does have 3 heads. There's Dany, there's Fagon, and there's Jon. And then when those two start ripping each other apart, there's the one. Entirely, it could have. So then his disinterest to Elia and the other kids is more apparent.
Right. Anyway,
Targaryens are weird, man.
Yeah, so Jorah and Mirri Maz Duur enter the tent, and Dany's standing over her eggs in the brazier, and she calls Jorah over. She's like, "What up, dog?
Yeah,
come on over here. How do these fuckers?" Or no, they were in the chest, not in the brazier.
Yeah, the ones in
and
the
she
chest.
was holding one, and she goes, "Feel these. What do they feel?" And he's like fucking big rocks that are scaly.
Yeah.
And she's like, "They're not hot," and he says, "No, they're cold as fuck." Even though to her, they are very hot.
Yeah.
They are passing strange, it says. Meaning, this is getting fucking weird that they're this hot to me.
Yeah.
When I'm not.
He asks if she's well. As weak as you are, Khaleesi, should you be up? Weak? I am strong, Sir Jorah. But she sits to placate him.
So, this is that moment I had mentioned earlier, where Jorah, in my opinion here, is not being overprotective or being crazy. The shit that she went through, she should not be standing.
Yeah.
There is no reasonable
she had to crawl
explanation.
To her dragons the first time.
Right. No reasonable explanation for her to be standing up, let alone holding this conscious conversation.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of seeing her asking what the fuck are you talking about? Are they hot? No, they're just normal, lay down. Yeah. And it's not him responding even to that, oh, you're still clearly out of it. It's you shouldn't be standing. How are you doing that? But that target, whatever it is that makes that healing process, she's capable already of walking and talking and handling her shit.
Yeah, and she sits and says, "Tell me how my child died." And Jorah says, "He never lived, princess. The women say," and then he falters.
He can't do it.
And she says, tell me what the women say." And he turns his face away, his eyes haunted. "They say the child was, but he couldn't say it. He looked half a corpse himself." And Mirri steps in for him. "Monstrous!" And Dany kind of breaks it down here where she says, "The knight was a powerful man, yet Dany understood in that moment that the Magi was stronger and crueler and infinitely more dangerous."
This is when she realizes the truth of it all. That she got fucked. Now, they're going to play on Jorah's looking so gaunt. I'd just like to point out that he's a spy for the Westeros there and kind of working with these other people that just got left in the Dothraki Sea with 100 people surrounded by 40,000 other Dothraki now split into tribes just looking out to kill and pillage and No wonder this motherfucker's gaunt. He's got to be tripping dick out there in the middle of the desert, just fucking hoping to survive this shit.
Yeah, Mirri continues, "Twisted. I drew him forth myself, scaled like a lizard, blind, with the stub of a tail and small leather wings like the wings of a bat. When I touched him, the flesh sloughed off his bones, and inside he was full of grave worms and the stink of corruption. He had been dead for years, Khaleesi."
She's confused because as she was being carried by Jorah into the tent in that last chapter, she recalls how strongly...
Well, she thinks darkness, as Mirri finishes, sweeping up behind to devour her.
Yeah.
If
so
I
now
look
it's
back,
all...
if I am lost. And this becomes her litany, her...
So now
Arya's serial Pharrell's
right.
thing. If I look back, I'm lost.
She had the darkness, the coldness coming up behind her in the dreams there. And now she's applying this, I think, saying that that's what this was, is that past. Like, if I look back, I'm lost.
I also think it's the horror of it. If I think of my child as that,
well, that's where I was going to bring
like, I'm going to be consumed by...
This is Bran.
Yeah.
Put that away.
Yeah, you don't
like
need
we
this
just
now.
said it with Sansa. It's showing each one of them is compartmentalizing this shit.
If I look back, I'm lost.
And so I think that that's what was really going on in the dream with the chasing the black. Is like if I look at what's actually going on, the horror of this, which is why like we're giving her this strength to get over and showing that she grieved. I think that she's in denial over everything. And like her Drogo stuff.
Well, I think it's also guilt.
I don't think it's
let Mirri do it,
though.
And like so, if I look back, I will see that the choice I made caused this to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of that, that guilt, which is why I like as much as I feel for Dany in this chapter, I could easily see her taking a villainous turn.
Well, so I definitely see with the shit that she's going to do.
She's not coming to terms with it.
She
she's
immediately puts it back behind her and just says, whatever.
Yeah, if I look back, I'm lost. I can't think about that. It's in the past now.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
I mean, it helps her get past her, her brother and the loss of her husband, and that's fine. But for other things,
she pushes
it
too
so
far
good.
and allows things to go overboard.
Yeah, so then we get she's confused because she says, "My son was alive and kicking when Jorah brought me into the tent, fighting to be born." And Mirri says, "That may be, but what came from your womb was as I described. Death was in that tent, Khaleesi."
And Jorah, and Dany can even hear the doubt in his voice, says that it was only Mirri dancing in there with the shadows on the walls, which is what we were saying back that last chapter, that could just be tricks and stuff.
"The grave casts long shadows, Iron Lord, long and dark, and in the end, no light can hold them back." So, do you still think it's bullshit?
Yes.
Yeah?
I do. I just, like...
Well, actually, hold on. Ser Jorah had killed her son, Dany knew. He did it for love and loyalty, yet he carried her into a place no living man should go and fed her baby to the darkness. He knew it too. His face gaunt, the limp. "The shadows have touched you too, Ser Jorah," she says to him, but he does not respond.
And shadows, while she thinks are saying, of death, metaphorically, the shadows of guilt. He did kill it by bringing Dany to Mirri Maz Duur to fix. The one person who is intent on killing this fucking baby. And that's what she will tell us that. I wanted them dead.
But he also had doubt in his voice, and he can't describe what the child looked like. So clearly, so this child was deformed as fuck.
Right.
He doesn't say at any point, no, Mirri's exaggerating. It didn't have wings.
Right.
So, we got to believe that this thing came out like that.
I don't think that,
And he's, almost looking what I would expect someone who's,
seen some shit.
Well, been touched by that kind of, it sucks your life force from everything, you hear of dark magic.
Sure.
It consumes on your aura, your energy. And he looks fucking, you're right. Absolutely. And I think that's the intended. He is now essentially, he was right-handed the Khaleesi, good friend of the Khal. Now what the fuck is he?
That's it.
This ex-Khaleesi who trusted a Magi to heal her Khal divided the Khals into now 12 different fucking Khalasars. Right. That's chaos.
Well, now couple that with the fact that he left him. he's not even for her. He's trying to get his own shit out to Westeros.
So here's my thinking. I've read Fire and Blood. You have not finished it.
Not finished it.
But there are cases of horrid things being birthed in Valyria, in reference to Valyria, near Valyria, around Valyria. I think that Mirri struck fucking gold here. And I think that's the whole point of this is I think magic came back into the world right at this moment.
Yeah.
Right here is because Dany kicks into that Targaryen lineage stuff, connecting to old Valyria. She even mentions old Valyria here in a little bit. Things like this have been birthed before by people close to Valyria. That's why people get runes on them and shit, because people have been known to birth horrid fucking demon things that come out.
Was it Catelyn who saw the comet?
It was Bran who saw the comet.
So yeah, I suppose
so
it
the
could
comet is kicking around the world.
I feel like that could be that moment when Bran saw the comet is when she...
And so I think at first for Mirri, it was bullshit, smoke and mirrors. And maybe it would have caused Dany to, maybe that's what she thought, is, the infighting with this would cause Dany to miscarry or something and kill the baby. Sure, cool, whatever. But instead, it was this fucking monster that's been dead for years.
Yeah.
Been dead for years.
So yeah, you sold me. I think because I still think it was horseshit. I
think Mirri was bullshitting hard.
This one I do think
works
better for me.
Because it worked. Because Drogo is alive. He's catatonically, but he can stand now. He can walk. He can eat and drink. He's lost all mental capacity, but he's essentially Sir Robert Strong, dare I say?
Oh shit, yo.
So, I think Mirri just lucked into the fact that magic was kicking in, and that's why Dany had this dream, had this deformed Targaryen baby that they burned out of her. Well, because then it would
explain, the history of the knights, the ones wielding the pale swords, egging her on, run, because that power, that magic is rising again.
Yeah.
It's going into her. It's
gonna, and she's gonna put it into her eggs. That's why the eggs are now twisting and writhing to her touch. She's the catalyst. She's got the fire burning in her now once again. And so, holy shit, that was a skirt. But, so, he'd been dead for years, if I look back. Jorah was alive. Okay, so that was it. Yeah, Jorah had killed her son, essentially. And so, she turns to Mirri and says, "You said that only death may pay for life. I thought you meant the horse."
And Mirri goes, "Yeah, but you let yourself believe that
was
bullshit.
A lie you told yourself.
And you knew from the start what it really meant."
Had she? She thinks? Had she known from the start?
I think that, again, again, I'm sold on that whole, now magic kicked in on her and she lucked into that, she's still playing it up here. And no, I don't. I think she knows that she misled Dany, obviously. No, I knew you didn't. And I'm going to say that now, so that way maybe there's a chance that I don't have to.
And Dany gives it again. "If I look back, I am lost." And she says, "The price is paid. The horse, my child, Quaro, Quotho, Hago, Kaholo, paid and paid and paid again." And Dany rises. "Where is Khal Drogo? Show him to me, God's wife, Magi, blood mage, whatever you are. Show me what I bought with my son's life." And I just love that line. Goddamn. And so Mirri says, "Come, I will take you." And Jorah helps her stand up, and they exit. Jorah kind of questions whether she should go, and she says, I'm going. We're doing this. So yeah, the sun burned like molten gold. Viserys, I like it.
That and under her feet when she was running.
Yeah, the smelting stone.
Yeah, so she sees essentially we get a nice long-winded
She's got her handmaidens there. She sees Drogo, who helps her. A couple of her cause are still there.
Yeah, all the people who are sworn to her. Otherwise,
barely 100 people.
The weak and the elderly.
And she says, Drogo's Khalasar is gone, and a Khal who cannot ride is no Khal. And Drogo says, "The Dothraki follow the strong. I'm sorry, princess, but Kopono named himself Khal and left. Many followed him. Jocko did the same soon after. A dozen new Khalasars are now riding the Dothraki Sea, where once there was only Drogos." And Ago steps forward and says, "The old, the frightened, the weak, the sick, and we who swore, we remain." Which, Dany says nothing to that. I would have been like, "Fuck yeah, Ago, thanks, bro."
Thanks. But so instead she asks about the first girl there that she had saved
Aroa?
when they had... Yeah, and They say that she was taken by, was it Joko?
Mago. Mago seized her, mounted her top, high and low, gave her to his Jocko.
Yeah, Jocko there. Yeah.
Gave him to call Jocko.
Who gave it in turn to all of his blood riders, all 6 of them.
And when he was done, cut her throat.
Yeah, so Dany...
The Dothraki were kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. That was her fate.
Right,
and Dany's like, that was a cruel fate.
And she promises that those who did that to her would beg for the mercy that they showed to her.
Well, she even does, if I look back, I am lost. She stuffs it down. Don't think about the fact that they raped her a lot and then killed her.
But think about
the fact that I'm going to kill them for it.
And she says that she's going to... They question her. They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
Joko is calling out 20,000 blood riders at his back. And she swears to every god, the mother of the mountains, all of them.
That she's Dany Targaryen and that she is going to make them die screaming.
Yep.
And that, like I said, begging for the mercy that they showed
So we had talked about it a little bit, but do you think this is going to happen?
I think so, yeah.
Because as we know, full spoiler reread, at the end of Dany is essentially on a collision course with Vaes Dothrak once again.
To go take up her place as a Dashkaleen.
Yeah. And that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, especially with her dragons.
We know from the show that she burned the main Khalasar hut and killed all the Khals.
But I feel like it's going to mean so much more in the books.
I really hope, again, we get to see Mago and Kalpono and them, the ones that actually killed Iroha.
So, unless we read in the next few books, that something happens to them, I'd be very surprised if Martin didn't have them there.
And Dany references
this specific. I said that they would, especially because does she have any of her original Ago or fucking the handmaidens?
I can't really recall right now. I think Mirri might still be with her.
And so it might be something like that where she says, well, I guess Mirri isn't going to be there. But yeah, I feel like this specifically will be played out where she will have
because this is such a important chapter for her. And like I would even argue, obviously we haven't read it yet, but I would argue that this one may be more important than the next one, where the dragons are actually born, because of the development here. We're learning, we're watching her learn how to stuff shit down and just nope. Mm-mm.
But at the same time, we're seeing her potential to, and anyone who doubts it, I think, is a little naive in their thinking,
to turn villainous,
because
just wipe out anyone before her.
She's saying, these people who were her blood, and she was trying to do right by slaves and shit to the best that she thought she could, but she's far from perfect. And for her to just, they're going to die screaming at my feet.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not that it's a good thing, but they're just people doing what they've always known. They don't know any better, and obviously you couldn't change them. But yeah, I definitely
did. I also thought it was interesting that we get her full title. I am Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen. Blood of Aegon the Conqueror, Maegor the Cruel, the Dragon's Daughter. In the chapter of like the magic seemingly coming back, her Targaryen dreams.
She takes her whole title and mantle.
So she demands, "Bring me to Drogo," and he was lying on the bare red earth, staring up at the sun. And Dany kneels beside him, noticing that his eyes were unseeing, blind. He did not seem to hear her when she whispered his name.
Yeah, she brushed a bunch of blood flies off him, which we know he hated in life.
So she asks, "Why is he out here in the sun?" "He seems to like the warmth, princess." And Jorah tells her, "He will walk where you lead him, eat if you put food in his mouth, drink if you dribble water on his lips." So yeah, he's a fucking automaton.
He likes the sun because it's the only thing he can feel. Like it's some warmth.
And his blind eyes seem to follow it across the sky. That's about it. So Dany kisses Drogo's brow and stood facing Mirri. "Your spells are costly, Magi. He lives. You asked for life. Paid for life."
And Dany goes into a spiel here, which is an incredibly important speech about how, for a man like Drogo, this is not a life.
Yeah, no.
He was a man was cooking big fires, eating, feasting.
A horse between his legs and a rock in his hand.
Like, living. And
when will he be as he was? And I don't know if you wrote the whole thing.
I didn't.
I did.
Okay.
"When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, when the seas go dry and the mountains blow in the wind like leaves, when your womb quickens again and you bear a living child. Not before." So yeah, never. Fuck you.
So the dark, I don't believe this shit. I think that, like I said, if she lucked into the magic there, cool, she's still playing high. Nothing she says is reliable at this point. Not a fucking thing. And so, like, oh, well, obviously he's not, anybody could have told her that. When's he going to come back? Never. That's all she had to say. Yeah. She is playing it up to fuck with Dany.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and this is happening now. She can sneak in that little, and you'll never have a baby again. Granted, she may have attempted to take measures to do something. Yeah, that could have
happened.
But
I mean, it could be scorched.
That's
from
too.
The
True.
Targaryen. She did, and there is a reference to like blood burning. Yeah. She could, it could.
And granted, I'd imagine that having the death and rot of whatever was
that's
in
what
her
I mean.
Doesn't do good stuff. But Mirri Maz Duur's gonna play anything she possibly can.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so she's gonna drop that in, and when again she could have just said never. He's stuck. This is him forever. Yep.
So Dany tells everyone to leave her alone with Mirri, and she turns on her saying, "You knew her fury was giving her strength at this point. You knew what I was buying, knew the price, and let me pay it. It was wrong of them to burn my temple. That angered the great shepherd."
Yeah, like we mentioned way
there
back
you go.
when, like,
there's her motivation.
You're a bunch of fucking assholes who came and fucked our village. We didn't do shit.
This was no God's work, Dany said coldly. You cheated me, murdered my child within me. The stallion who mounts the world will burn no cities now, trample no nations into dust. And Dany says, I spoke for you. I saved you. Anguished.
Yeah, and Mirri goes into the big explanation, which we went into it a bit when she first took Mirri, that like when Dany rolled up, that was the fourth guy getting ready to rape her.
And taking her as a dog takes a bitch.
And now both of them here are kind of, it's hard to say one's 100% right or wrong at this point because Mirri Maz Duur like had some shit happen to her before Dany rolled up. Not to mention her city, all that.
Yeah, the boy village. She cured the fever.
The baker who baked her bread, like all these things that were fucked.
Which I thought it was interesting that in Mirri Maz Duur's, trauma, we get a baker and a boy, a baker's boy.
A baker's boy is what that's what I.
Like, I just thought it was a fun little, but
So going further there though, Dany rolled up and she's kind of just in this stuff new to her a bit as well. This is like her first raid that she's seen the Dothraki, and she is going through trying to stop as much of the rape as she can.
Well, that's it. I mean, there are no innocents in war.
Yeah,
it's the lesson here. Dany didn't sanction this village raid, but it's her child who paid the price. Everyone becomes a victim when no one has accountability for anything.
Right.
So that's the message here is Mirri Maz Duur struck out at who she could strike out at. And that was Dany and an unborn child and her husband who was wounded. Like, it sucks, but you shouldn't have burned my temple. That's the way it fucking works when you're living like this.
And so that's where you can't really
neither one of them
Mirri Maz Duur.
They're not great people, either one of them, but neither one of them are really
Can you pass too much
evil.
Judgment on?
Yeah,
because she would have been, she mentions that she's saved countless people in that temple.
Yeah.
Like,
she
good
cured
people.
A boy, and I believe it, like, that she lived here with these people.
Yeah, these were good people that she
cut
saved
out a life.
She
wasn't casting crazy spells to kill anyone here.
She was the little town doctor.
Yeah, she was the healing woman, and she made a life here, and then everyone came in and killed her, so she was like, oh yeah, no, I know how to do some crazy shit. Fuck you people.
Exactly.
And you put me in a position to allow me to do it. And so she asks Dany, tell me again what it is you saved. And Dany says, your life. And Mirri laughs cruelly.
Take a look at your cow. Tell me then, what is a life worth? And
when all the rest is gone.
Oh yeah, that's the important part.
Part.
Yeah.
When all the rest is, I lost the people I like to heal, the people I healed and probably cared for, my town, my baker who was kind to me, the boy who I healed, like, I lost my life.
I'm not living there
and
anymore.
And now I'm a slave in your Khalasar.
Being forced to heal the guy who did sanction this attack.
Who gave the order.
And, like, fuck you.
So Dany's done. She tells the men of her cause to bind Mirri hand and foot. And as she's led away, Mirri smiles at her as if they shared some secret.
And Dany thinks she could have had her head. But then what would she have but a head? And what is death if life is worthless.
Yeah.
And I think that's that line is this chapter.
Yeah, killing Mirri isn't going to bring back Drogo.
If life was worthless, what is death? Is that the like, that sounds like a reward at this point.
Well, yeah, it's also like, when nothing else remains, death is a mercy.
Exactly.
A mercy. It's, and that's what Mirri is saying here. You could have killed me, and it would have been better than to let me live as a slave after you've slaughtered everything I loved. But instead, you made me serve. And so, look what happens when you live your life with nothing to care about and no way to care for anything. And so Mirri kind of knows she's got her at the, like, go ahead and kill me and prove my point that you're just as bad as these people, and I get away from you, and I get to move on and go to the Great Shepherd. Or you can keep me and torture me
and then prove even
that
further
you're just as barbaric as these fucking people. Like, so it's a lesson Dany needs to learn.
Yeah, well, she got her caught in this cycle where you neither way you win.
So Dany, they lead Drogo to her tent, and Dany orders a tub filled, and she bathed him herself, and took a lot of time doing it. It's well past dark by the time she finishes brushing out his hair and making him look like she remembers him.
Which, and again, this isn't stuff she should be capable of doing.
No, she's exhausted at the end, tired as hell, but she's still fucking chugging away.
And so she decides this is his night. She wants to rest, but, like, this is the last chance that she has that she could think of to potentially, hopefully, save this guy.
So as she's leading him outside, she thought of their first ride, and of course, all things of importance must be done under the open sky. So she takes him out there and realizes that the moon isn't visible, but 1,000,000 stars shine overhead, and she took that as a good omen. And so she lays him on the ground and just tells him, remember, and she's saying this to him, remember our first ride, the night we wed, making Rhaego, and she's trying to bring him back using and it gets weird, but actually for me it was more just fucking sad. Like,
well, that's what it is.
She's just trying to bring him back, everything Doria taught him by pleasuring him with her mouth, just raking him, getting into
trying to get him excited,
any sort of reaction she can get from him, and there's nothing from him. And it says in the end she just ended up bathing him again in her own tears. And when dawn broke, she knew he was truly lost to her, and she recites Mirri's words to him as she...
And this is what I think is what pisses me off, is that she still takes stock in what Mirri says, and she's going to...
you don't think... Like, because this was the first time I thought she actually came to terms with it. I think she still puts stock in it with the quickening of the womb, but I think this is her saying never. Like, you're never going to come back.
Well, no, I think she's taking stock in the quickening of the womb thing. Is what I think it really is. Yeah, and that's what pisses... Because now she's making it like, now this is a true thing, because she said it, you're clearly catatonic, which she knew, but, like, this was the last
But it's subtly done, because as she's saying it, she doesn't really put emphasis on the quickening of the womb, because a voice starts whispering never, 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 making it about Drogo's return. It's making it about Drogo's return, not about the quickening of the womb. And so, Dany goes back to her tent and found a cushion, and she walks back out to her sun and stars. If I look back, I am lost. And she knelt, kissed Drogo's lips, and pushed the cushion down over his face. And that is the end for Khal Drogo.
Done.
So, it's this is certainly an interesting chapter, because
there's a lot.
It's Dany towing the line to me in the most brazen of ways, where she at this point can use this as a strength to be the savior of the people, or she could use this as her justification to...
Right. So I think this is very similar to what we mentioned with Tyrion's turn to villainy, and how there's just certain things that he does, stomping on Wick's fingers or Check's fingers, whoever it was.
The fucking
Marillion. Right, Marillion, the bard. And so there's just certain things, that... Yeah, this is a mercy right here. Technically, the god of death, Dany and fucking Ariel get along just fine.
Yeah.
But, like, she caused all this with all the stuff that she had done, and she's just pretending, no, like, I'm still Daenerys Targaryen, and I have the right to this, because what I say is more important than what others feel.
And that's becoming more of a thing now that it's awakening in her blood.
Yeah, well, because she still can't see that Mirri was right in any capacity.
Yeah, no.
She's still convinced. That's why Mirri's being taken. She's still convinced that she was in the right.
Yeah,
she saved your life.
I saved you, and you killed my unborn son.
And she's not wrong. She did save her life But that's where that whole thing comes into play. What is a life worth?
Yeah. And so you got an inductee?
Oh, shit. Mirri Maz Duur.
Yeah.
Because of the wisdom, yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to all the showmanship from the last chapter, plus playing it up here. And now that I'm on board with your theory there, that's when magic sparked in, like, just capitalizing.
Yeah.
And, like, because as fucking twisted as what she did.
I mean, how better to get back at someone and then, like, teach them this lesson.
Yeah, and that's it. And so she's an important catalyst, an important lesson, like you said, for Dany to learn. But I can't put the blame on her. I don't.
No, that's it. I really like it that because Mirri Maz Duur to me is not an evil character
at all.
She's not this terrifying blood mage that I see.
I would put her more on the good spectrum. She's a
healer,
good person. Yeah. She's a healer. Yeah. I don't, and of the soft people.
And she even says, that your son now was supposed to be the stallion who mounts the world. This great big badass Kal-El
who's going to conquer the world.
Who's going to conquer the world. I
stopped
that. I didn't allow him to go and kill a bunch of people.
Because her shepherd god probably thinks more along the lines of peace and prosperity as opposed to war and fear. And
Mirri Maz Duur is a good one. I really like that because, I don't think she's an evil character.
You, dog?
Probably to Drogo for getting the least deserved, one of the least deserved ends between him and Ned. It's really hard to pinpoint, and I just think that like Drogo kind of gets shunted to the side over Ned, where it's like Ned Stark goes out admitting to a crime he didn't do. Drogo goes out because he wanted to allow his wife. He was being a good husband and allowing his wife to like get him medical treatment.
Yeah, and instead of refusing that.
And he did, like, obviously he didn't listen to the doctor's orders, and he's not the best of people, but it's his way of life, it's his culture, that, there's blame on a societal standpoint for Drogo, more so than a personal level, I think. Him going out this way is so
That's what I was going to say.
Because Dany nails it, this is not life for a man like Drogo, and his death should have been something spectacular, or at least stories that were, fucking
not
told
stories
forever.
Of blood magic, but stories of a great battle he fought and lost against a great epic,
or even a great call, who birthed like the stallion who mounts the world, who like even I don't know, it's hard to say.
He deserves better than just a catatonic smothering from a pillow.
And
it's of mice and men.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's fucking brutal. And so,
or is it One Flew Over? Which I don't know.
No, it's of mice and men.
Okay,
with, the guy who kills the puppies. Poor guy.
Yeah.
So. Drogo for me. We did get an inductee from across the pond there, from France.
Across the narrow sea.
In Julian. And he says, hi to you both. I told you before, I don't really like Daenerys chapters, because I am not a fan of her, that character. Well, this is another pure example of that. This chapter shows she is gullible, and only apprehends life as she sees fit. Only from her own perspective. She shows no empathy, doesn't seem to be able to put herself into someone else's shoes to understand what they feel. That Magi is proof of that. She thinks the old woman owes her big time because she saved her life. She can't understand how the old lady must be feeling going through life with them after having lost everything due to their consequences. Due to their actions. And as a consequence, Dany trusted her with the life of her husband and child and lost them both. She should have seen it coming. She should have thought beforehand, and it kind of pisses me off, I admit it. Well, this is the place to admit it, Julian. Let it out.
So he put it more eloquently than I did.
He says, luckily for you, Zach, I think the next chapter is one where I will have a good opinion of Dany. You didn't quite include an inductee on that one, but that is A-okay. I will just assume that it was not fucking Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah, so... No, the valid point.
That's it. Yeah, no, absolutely.
It very clearly there.
Mainly when I asked why you don't like her, because I totally understand why people do not like Dany. As you'll see, probably when we get to Clash, this is about the last, and this is why, is this line she starts to toe here. She starts to become a little petulant to me, demanding, entitled, and it starts here where... Yeah,
this is kind of the last chapter that,
it's
I know
like,
Zach is really
you're the underdog.
Thoroughly enjoying... that's not to say that her story is boring or it just might not appeal to many people, to everybody, and so this is for me as well, where I typically used to always peter off. However, we'll see.
I'll certainly be paying close attention.
Now that we've
whether
got
or
a whole
not
new
I
take.
will enjoy her still is a whole thing up for discussion.
Yeah.
I think she still got her last chapter in the book to. I don't think I'll have that swing. I think I'll still enjoy her in this last chapter, but Clash starts to get a little feeble for her. So, Julian, thank you for writing in as always. Next time, don't forget your inductee, bud. We like inductees, bud.
I need your inductee.
But that's okay.
We'll make one up for him.
Well, I'm assuming it'd be like Mirri Maz Duur for kind of putting her in her place. But Julian, you can always write in, and we'll include that on our next episode. Which next week, next episode, next episode we're gonna be reading Tyrion 9, and that will be Tyrion's last episode in a Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we're expecting it to be on the shorter end of the spectrum for a time on that one.
Yeah, he's pretty much just getting promoted.
But who knows? We may end up going off on some tangents.
And then after that, we will have Catelyn. I can't recall Catelyn's number. But 9 or 10.
Something.
And that will also be Catelyn's last chapter. And then after that, we have Jon.
The last Jon.
The last Jon, and then the last Dany. And
it'll be Dany 10.
We'll be wrapping it up.
And that's the final chapter.
But next episode is going to be Tyrion 9, so send us in your inductees for that. If you would
send those in at our email is withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/brotherhoodpodcast. Zach's on the Instagram @mannerswithout. I'm on Twitter @mannerswithout. Zach's on Twitter @carstark92.
I post adorable dog pictures of my dog Barrack being a goon.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/withoutmanners. We have the sample chapters going up there.
Theon, Mercy, and Victarion.
Barry
and
the Bold.
Barristan Selmy for you
He's in
folks.
the works, so it's going to be good stuff.
And we're excited, so yeah, check us out. Help us out,
Throw a few dollars our way to help and support this podcast that you know and love so much.
Or if you can't throw money, because we understand the way the world works.
Then just write us in your
a rate and review also will help.
Yeah, those are cool.
On Apple Podcasts. Just get us noticed.
Yeah, or Stitcher, Breaker,
or
Google Podcasts.
Word of mouth. Recommend us to your friends.
Tell
if
your
friends
pals.
are obsessed with Game of Thrones, maybe they're still pissed off about the show.
Say, talk to these guys.
And
they
say,
read the books to you.
listen to these guys. They're pretending to be intelligent on the subject of Game of Thrones.
What do you mean pretending? We kind of have a good... All right, we're pretending to be good.
But yeah,
anyway.
Anything you guys can do, as always, we appreciate it. Check us out. Hit us up.
All right, that's enough from you. Valo de Harris.
Peace.